The 6th of June 1944. Shortly after midnight, reports began reaching German headquarters in France. Unusual naval movement, airborne landings, increased radio traffic. But similar warnings had come before. For months, German intelligence had expected the main Allied invasion to strike at the narrowest point of the Channel, the Pas de Calais. Normandy, by comparison, seemed secondary. So when the first messages arrived, many officers assumed this was another diversion, another attempt to stretch German reserves. But within hours, thousands of ships were approaching the French coast. And the real question was no longer whether the Allies would land. It was this: could Germany stop them before the situation became irreversible? By the summer of 1944, Germany had spent nearly 2 years preparing for an invasion of Western Europe. Along the Atlantic coastline, from Norway to the French-Spanish border, fortifications were built under the name of the Atlantic Wall. On maps and in propaganda footage, it looked formidable. Concrete bunkers, heavy artillery, minefields, anti-landing obstacles planted along the beaches. But the coastline to defend stretched over 3,000 kilometers. No army could make every kilometer equally strong. In France and Belgium alone, German forces numbered close to 1 million men. Yet those forces were dispersed across vast distances. Many divisions assigned to coastal defense were static formations units, with little or no transport. Their role was simple: hold their assigned sector. If the enemy broke through, retreat would not be an option. Half of the 58 divisions in the West lacked real mobility. Many were composed of older soldiers, recovering wounded, or so-called Eastern battalions, made up of former Soviet prisoners. On paper, the Atlantic Wall suggested strength. In reality, it depended on something else entirely: a limited number of mobile reserves, especially armored divisions. And that raised a critical problem. If the wall could not stop the invasion on its own, where should the decisive force be placed? The German high command in the West was divided. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel believed the invasion had to be crushed at the shoreline. He had seen Allied air power in North Africa and understood what it meant. If the enemy secured a foothold and began unloading heavy equipment, pushing them back would become exponentially harder. Rommel argued that Panzer divisions should be positioned close to the coast, ready to counterattack within hours. But the overall commander in the West, Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, disagreed. He preferred to keep armored forces concentrated inland. In his view, committing tanks too early risked exposing them to naval gunfire and airstrikes. Better to identify the main invasion point, then launch a coordinated counteroffensive. The dispute was never fully resolved. Instead, a compromise was reached. Some Panzer divisions were placed under local control. Others were kept in a Central Reserve Panzer Group West. But that Central Reserve could only be released with authorization from one man: Adolf Hitler. This meant that in the critical first hours of an invasion, field commanders could not freely deploy their strongest forces. They would have to wait. And on the morning of June 6, waiting proved costly. How many hours were lost before the situation was understood? And were those hours decisive? The first airborne landings began shortly after midnight. Paratroopers were scattered across the Norman countryside. Some landed far from their objectives. Others were captured almost immediately, but their presence created uncertainty. German officers received fragmented reports. Enemy units south of Carentan, bridge seizures near the Orne River, small coastal infiltrations. Some of these reports were inaccurate, others were misinterpreted. Just days earlier, Allied deception operations had reinforced the belief that the main landing would come at Pas de Calais. Even on June 6th, many German commanders suspected Normandy might still be a feint. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel was not at his headquarters that morning. He had traveled to Germany. He believed poor weather made a large-scale landing unlikely. At the highest level, decisions were delayed. According to multiple accounts, Adolf Hitler was asleep when requests were made to release the armored reserve. No one wanted to wake him prematurely, not without certainty that this was the main invasion. By the time authorization discussions began in earnest, Allied ships were already offshore. At dawn, the largest amphibious assault in history was underway. German coastal divisions fought where they stood. On several beaches, especially at Omaha, Allied forces suffered severe losses in the first waves. For a brief moment, the outcome did not look inevitable. But even where German defenders inflicted heavy casualties, something was missing. There were no immediate armored counterattacks. No concentrated strike to drive the attackers back into the sea. Only isolated resistance. If the defense was strong enough to cause such losses, why did it fail to stop the landing? At dawn, Allied forces began landing along 5 sectors of the Normandy coast. Naval artillery opened fire. Bombers struck inland targets. Landing craft moved toward the beaches under heavy seas. In some sectors, resistance was scattered and disorganized. In others, it was deadly. At Omaha Beach, American units faced concentrated machine gun fire from fortified positions overlooking the shoreline. The first waves suffered severe casualties. Landing craft were destroyed. Men struggled through surf and obstacles under direct fire. For a time, the landing seemed dangerously close to failure. Offshore, commanders considered the possibility that the assault might have to be abandoned. And yet, even here, the German defense had limits. Coastal units fought stubbornly. They inflicted losses, but they were isolated. Communication was unreliable. Ammunition supply was inconsistent. Naval gunfire and airstrikes gradually suppressed key positions. What the defenders needed most was speed, a rapid coordinated counterattack before the beachhead solidified. It did not come. By late morning, Allied troops had begun pushing inland in several sectors. Engineers cleared obstacles. Reinforcements arrived continuously. The initial chaos on the beaches slowly transformed into a structured buildup. For a brief moment, the invasion had wavered, but the decisive blow never followed. If the landing was so vulnerable in its first hours, why was there no concentrated strike to finish it? German armored divisions did begin moving on June 6, but not as a unified force. Orders were delayed. Some units waited for authorization. Others received incomplete or contradictory instructions. The Central Reserve could not be fully committed without approval from the highest level. By the time elements of armored divisions advanced toward Normandy, the situation had changed. Allied air supremacy dominated the battlefield. Fighter bombers patrolled the skies. Roads and crossroads were under constant observation. Columns moving in daylight risked immediate attack. Vehicles were forced to disperse, hide, or move at night. This slowed everything. What might have been a concentrated counterstroke became fragmented engagements. Individual units attacked, some achieved temporary gains, but there was no single overwhelming blow against a vulnerable beachhead. Naval gunfire added another factor. Warships offshore could deliver heavy shells deep inland. German formations attempting to assemble within range found themselves exposed. Time worked in only one direction. Every hour brought more Allied troops, more vehicles, more artillery. The longer the counterattack was delayed, the stronger the enemy position became. What happens when an army still possesses tanks, but no longer controls the tempo of battle? By the evening of June 6, the scale of the operation was unmistakable. This was not a diversion. It was the long-anticipated Second Front. Over the following days, the Allied foothold expanded. Artificial harbors were assembled. Supplies flowed across the channel in enormous quantities. Infantry divisions were reinforced by armor and artillery at a pace the German command could not match. Attempts to contain the beachheads continued. Local counterattacks were launched. Some sectors saw intense fighting, especially around Caen. But the strategic balance had shifted. Germany now faced a fully established Western Front. And this front was supported by overwhelming industrial capacity, naval superiority, and near total control of the air. Meanwhile, on the Eastern Front, the Red Army was preparing its own major offensive. German resources were finite. Fuel shortages grew worse. Replacement units were thinner, less trained, and increasingly under-equipped. Normandy was no longer a question of whether the Allies would be pushed back into the sea. It became a question of how long Germany could delay the inevitable advance. At what point does a defensive battle stop being a test of courage and become a matter of mathematics? In the days after June 6th, German commanders still believed the situation might be stabilized. The beachheads were narrow. The Allied forces had not yet broken out. In theory, a determined counterattack could still isolate and destroy parts of the landing force. But theory required conditions that no longer existed. German divisions in Normandy were being worn down daily, not only by ground combat, but by constant bombardment. Naval artillery struck from offshore. Allied aircraft attacked assembly areas, bridges, railways, and supply routes. movement became a risk. Fuel became scarce. And perhaps most critically, coordination became fragile. Units that attempted local counterattacks often found themselves fighting alone. There was no longer a unified operational rhythm. There were only reactions. Can an army win by reacting? When the enemy controls the initiative every hour? Normandy did not exist in isolation. While German forces struggled in the west, the Eastern Front demanded even greater resources. Within weeks of the landings, the Soviet Union launched Operation Bagration, a massive offensive that shattered German Army Group Center. This forced Berlin to make choices. Reinforce the West? Or prevent collapse in the East? There were not enough reserves for both. Divisions were transferred, then transferred again. Some arrived under strength, others never reached full combat readiness. Strategic depth once Germany's advantage was gone. The Western Front, reopened after 4 years, was no longer a secondary theater. It was a permanent commitment. And unlike earlier campaigns, Germany no longer possessed the freedom to concentrate overwhelming force at a single decisive point. Instead, it was stretched across continents, across supply lines, across expectations that no longer matched reality. Was Normandy lost because of one delayed order that morning? Or because Germany no longer had the capacity to fight a modern industrial war? By late June, it was clear that the Allies would not be pushed back into the sea. The question shifted, not whether the invasion would survive, but how quickly it would expand. Cities such as Cannes became focal points of heavy fighting. German units fought stubbornly, casualties mounted on both sides. But the larger pattern did not change. Allied logistics functioned at a scale the German command could not counter. Reinforcements crossed the channel continuously. Equipment losses were replaced. German losses were not. When the Allied breakout finally came in July, the balance tipped irreversibly. The Western Front began to unravel. What had started as a narrow coastal landing evolved into a sustained offensive that would push toward Paris and eventually to the German border. Normandy did not end the war, but it ended Germany's ability to dictate its course. From this point forward, the Wehrmacht would fight defensively on every major front, and increasingly without the resources to do so effectively. The landings of the 6th of June, 1944, were not decided in a single hour. They were shaped by years of preparation, by strategic deception, by disagreements within the German command, and by a balance of industrial power that had already begun to shift. Some argue that if armored divisions had been released earlier, the invasion might have failed. Others believe that the outcome was determined long before the first landing craft touched the shore. History rarely turns on one moment alone. Normandy was not simply a battle for beaches. It was the moment Germany faced a war it could no longer control. What do you think? Did the German army still have a real opportunity to stop the invasion on June 6? Or had the strategic balance already made the outcome inevitable? I read every comment,